Exciting news, Wine Coven! We are doing a live show at the Fitzgerald Theater in St. Paul on Saturday, September 21st, 2024.
We love the Fitzgerald.
We do. We love them so much.
This is going to be a wild and witchy time with a feral girl theme, and we are working on some, I'm going to say, masterful costumes.
Yes, we
are very inspired by the film The Craft. And we definitely encourage you to dress up. We love a theme.
We are the weirdos, mister. Yes, we're so excited. So get your tickets before they sell out. Head to wineandcrimepodcast.com for that sweet, sweet link. I'm telling you, act fast. Presale was already a big success, so tickets are going to go real quick. You don't want to miss it.
They're going to vanish into the night.
Yes.
And we cannot wait to be back at the Fitzgerald Theater and to see all of you on September 21st.
Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where two friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
We sure do, and it's a good day for us Minnesotans today.
It is. You know, as of the time of recording this, we found out that Waltz, our boy Waltz, was chosen as Kamala's VP, and it's, you know, America's dad, ready to make his way to the White House.
We're all Minnesotans today.
From his humble beginnings as a school teacher here in the Midwest.
All the way to D.C.
All the way to D.C. A little corn-fed boy going to the White House.
I wonder what a White House kitchen-made hot dish is like.
Ooh, well, yeah, but he did embarrassingly tweet one of the worst hot dish photos that anyone has ever seen, like a couple of years ago. So maybe let the White House chefs take care of that for you, Timmy, because God love you, but that is one of the areas where you are lacking. Not enough to not give you my vote, but you can do better.
That's pretty serious.
Show up for the American people.
I vote on the issues.
Yeah.
This is an issue.
This is a deal breaker. You got to get better at making your hot dish. Anyway, I'm Amanda.
Oh, I'm Lucy.
And this week we have a very special gals pick. That seems wholesome on its surface, but then once we get into it, it took me 3 days to write these notes because
it's sinister.
It's so sinister. It's so sad.
Yeah, I got a case for us today, and she's sad.
She's rough. So today we're going to be tackling Suburbia Crimes.
Lots of shit goes down in Suburbia.
A lot of shit does go down in Suburbia, and it lulls you into a false sense of safety and complacency with all the charismatic and idyllic talking up of the suburbs. But guess what? Fucked up shit happens there too. It's a breeding ground for predators. I'm going to stay in the city.
Yeah. I was remembering when we did our hometown crimes episode.
Yeah.
And I covered that family annihilator in Greenwood. That's what this reminded me of.
But yeah.
Couldn't go back. Couldn't repeat it, but horrible.
I know. I was kind of sad that my case from that episode had already been used because my neighbor had killed his wife.
Was that the guy who threw his wife out the window?
And I grew up in the most cookie cutter, out of a fucking storybook suburb in Connecticut ever.
We'll get to your neck of the woods.
Oh, great. So yeah, it would have been a good fit, but alas, had to go into another heinous crime.
Well, there's no shortage of those.
None. So let's get a little lubricated so that we can get through this without, crying. Which no promises. But for our wine crime pairing this week, I had to pick the most suburban wine I could muster for this episode. So do you have a guess? What do you think I chose?
I think it's Kim Crawford.
Kim Crawford what?
Chardonnay.
Yes! I had to go with our girl, Kimmy K. She's got it's Kimmy C, but I just call her Kimmy K. And she's
also a man.
I know, we know. Has a classic New Zealand Chardonnay.
Okay.
It's a medium straw in color. It has aromas of citrus and stone fruit with notes of tropical fruit and pineapple.
Wow.
It's got an approachable and full-bodied Chardonnay flavor. It's going to show great length and persistence. She's going to linger on the palate, baby.
And I didn't have to let it linger.
Yep.
Been in my head all day.
Chardonnay is going to linger. She's medium weight with a creamy texture and hints of butterscotch and lemon meringue pie. So this is a butter bomb, babies. Your favorite. She can be aged in the cellar for up to 2 years, they say, with confidence. After that, maybe a little less confident. She's also a twist off. So I don't know. I feel weird about aging twist off wines. Like, I don't know what, that's an elitist thing. I'm sure it's probably bullshit. Twist offs are just fine. I'm recognizing it in myself.
Well, that's the first step.
Yep. You can pair this with a camembert cheese, a pan-seared salmon, other white meat dishes like a chicken, a roasted chicken, or a Chardonnay. But another thing you could do if you really wanted to get suburban is make
ice in it.
Well, you could make it a spritzer, baby.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I found a recipe from thenerdygourmet.com called the Killer Chardonnay Spritzer, which, like, what could be more perfect?
Wow.
This would take 4 ounces of Chardonnay, 2 ounces of club soda, chilled, and the Chardonnay would be chilled, 3 cranberries, frozen, and 2 mint leaves. You combine the wine, the soda, and the cranberries. If you like ice, you can put ice in your glass and your wine glass as well. Gently roll the mint leaves in your palms. You don't have to muddle them, but you're going to want to roll them to release some of that flavor and then plop those in your spritzer. Yeah, express. Pop those into your glass and, give it a sip and enjoy. It's only 3 grams of carbs. It's got some potassium. It's low on protein, but you've got a little calcium. You've got some vitamin A, very low sugar.
Cranberries are, superfood.
Superfood. So make yourself a killer Chardonnay spritzer and grab yourself a bottle of Kim Crawford Chardonnay if you're feeling suburban and wanting to punish yourself for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because I notoriously hate that wine, but I also love a white wine spritzer.
Do you really?
I really do. Those knock back so easily. I mean, I usually will just order an Aperol spritz so that I don't feel like a complete,
white
wine mom. Yeah, like white lady wine mom. But I love a white wine spritzer. I'll make it at home. It's refreshing.
I passed a car this morning and their vanity plate was wine mom.
Okay. Y'all, calm down. Take a seat.
It was like a red Elantra.
No.
But like crimson red.
Crimson?
Like classy lady red, not like race car red.
I don't know.
I still hate it. I hate everything about it. But I wanted to clarify that it was a deeper, richer red.
The hue of red does matter. It makes an impact.
It communicates something completely different.
Yeah. So I'm glad we actually have that cleared up because what I had in my mind was not the same.
I know. I couldn't let you go be led astray.
No. What are you drinking today?
I have some Sauvignon Blanc that Corey picked up for me at Gateway Market. As you, Amanda, may recall yesterday when we recorded that wild grain ad, and you were saying that Bill made you vodka sauce.
Yep.
Yeah. Corey was in the kitchen, literally. I know I said this, but he was in the kitchen making the exact same thing. He also bought a shitload of mussels. And so he made me steamed mussels with a butter white wine sauce.
Oh,
bitch.
Your husband.
I know. And he only did it because he was like, I just feel like cooking. What do you want? It was like, recreate my favorite fucking meal from a posto.
Yes, please. Oh my God.
So I also have a side of pasta, which I'll be sneaking during the ad breaks.
Please do. I love this for you. Well, I have an ad break for you right now, so you can take your first bite. Shall we take a break to eat a bite of pasta and hear a word from our sponsors before we dive in?
Absolutely.
Oh, God, let's do it. Do you love wearing like shapewear or shorts under your dresses to prevent things from rubbing together, but hate the way they suffocate you at times or roll down when you dance?
Yeah.
How they're impossible to peel off when there's a huge line at the wedding waiting to use the bathroom? No? Am I the only one with this trauma? No. But that's where Honey Love comes in. They are the only shapewear that won't ever roll down no matter how much you groove on the dance floor. And Honey Love shapewear features lingerie-inspired design details that you'll want to show off and is made with breathable fabric that keeps you nice and cool, which is perfect for this summer heat. And for a limited time only, you can get Honey Love on sale. Get 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link, honeylove.com/wine. Support our show and check them out at honeylove.com/wine.
Yes, Amanda.
Yes.
Yes to all of those things. Yes to the long line, the bathroom thing, the rolling down.
Ugh. The too tight squeeze.
Yes, Honey Love has seen our pain points and addressed them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not there anymore. So one of the items that we both love is their Superpower short. These babies smooth, they shape, they lift.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give you a flawless silhouette under any outfit. And it is like their best-selling item.
Mm-hmm.
They have this signature X on these shorts that targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. So it like compresses where you want it to and like does not compress where you don't want it to.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to work with your body, not against it. And it also lifts your booty.
It's a bra for your butt.
It's a bra for your butt. It makes your bum look awesome.
Can confirm.
And it's not, Honey Love is not just shapewear or sculpt wear. They have incredibly comfortable bodysuits, bras. I'm wearing my bra right now. Tank tops, leggings. I love the leggings.
They're so soft.
Honey Love is just as easy to put on as it is to take off. Shapewear shouldn't be difficult. Their products make you look good and feel good. So whether it's a wedding, some kind of event you're dressing up for, or just, you know, your hot girl walk, an everyday boost of confidence, Honey Love is the perfect +1.
Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/wine. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off. honeylove.com/wine. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Say yes to everyday adventure with Honey Love.
We always say that therapy is for everyone. Everyone would benefit from therapy.
Literally.
And it's kind of difficult to pull the trigger if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't been in therapy before. But Talkspace makes it so easy. You do not have to leave your house. You don't have to go anywhere. They do everything for you. They match you with a licensed therapist. And it really couldn't be any easier. It's millennial, Gen X, Gen Z approved, all of them. And the best part about Talkspace is that it is so accessible. From personalized treatment to meeting online from anywhere. They can give you the ability to text your therapist at any time. And it's just, if you haven't tried it, it does not need to be scary.
No, it doesn't. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider and makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. Talkspace therapy and psychiatry are covered by many insurance plans and employers. Most insured members pay a copay of $30 or less, and you can easily sign up online and get paired with the licensed provider that's right for you and fits your needs, typically within 48 hours, which is incredible. And you can also switch providers at no extra cost. So if it's not working out with the therapist that you're matched with, there's no like awkward in-person breakup. You can just let the app know and get matched with somebody else. You just move on. Talkspace makes getting help convenient because you can take your appointments from the comfort and privacy of your home. There's texting, there's video calls, there's voice calling. I mean, it really does have anything that you might need. I love it because if something comes up in my life, I want to like get it out right away. I don't want to have to log it somewhere in my ADHD brain until like next month's session. I can just text my therapist and she gets back to me the next, office hours that she has, and it just works out perfectly. Talkspace provides personalized treatment for individuals, couples, the LGBTQIA plus community, veterans, and teens. Really anything you might be going through, there's a therapist for you on Talkspace.
As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/gals and enter promo code SPACE80, SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/gals and enter that promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for this show. That's Talkspace.com/gals, promo code SPACE80.
Okay, Lucy, what is our background and psych and maybe a case for, well, for sure a case. You said you're doing a case for Suburbia Crimes. I'm scared.
You should be scared.
Great.
Let's dive right in. And no, I don't have psychology.
Okay.
So, according to Merriam-Webster, suburbia can be defined as the suburbs of a city, the people who live in the suburbs, or suburban life in general. I will not be discussing the vehicle.
No.
Because I'm still not clear if that is a brand name of a car or a type of car.
I'm not going to look that up because I don't care.
Okay. In the 20th century, the American dream was synonymous with upward mobility, especially single-family detached house ownership. So a house for your family. This had become the mainstay of the American political system and of American popular culture. Everybody aspired to this.
Don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everyone wants this. Cut to all of our squishmallows in our house. I just want a nice house.
Both medicated.
I just want a nice house to raise my squishmallows. Is that so much to ask?
A simple 4-bed, 3-bath house for me. Honestly, and my squishmallows.
I'm gonna need more bedrooms for my squishmallows. It's getting out of control.
It's like that thing where if you have a bigger house or space, you're gonna fill it with more shit.
You're gonna get more squishmallows.
Specifically squishmallows.
I wake up every morning with 3 of them on the floor. I arrange them all nicely for me to lay in, and then by morning I have cockatiel hair bangs. I'm passed out into the one clinging to life squishmallow that remained, and there's 5 just scattered around the room.
It's my favorite thing that Bill asked you where your pillows were, and you said you don't have any. You just have squishmallows.
Oh, because he was surprising me with nice new sheets and wanted to put pillowcases on my pillow.
He should have just put squishies into pillowcases.
I did find him one pillow that he could put a nice pillowcase on that goes under my squishmallows.
That was so generous of you.
I know. I'm a really good wife.
Okay, many cookie-cutter homes sprang up outside metropolitan areas after World War II. These weren't mansions. These weren't big, what we kind of think about the suburbs
GI Bill
now.
Houses. It's what I live in.
Currently?
I live in a GI Bill house, yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. I didn't know that.
My neighborhood, half the houses on this block are basically the exact same layout with just a couple of different variations. Our neighbor right next door has the same layout, but they got a fireplace. We don't have a fireplace. That's just the same shit.
Well, we will get to that. So they're not mansions, but to the generation that had survived the Great Depression and World War II, these modest homes represented unimaginable luxury.
Okay.
During the late 1940s and 50s, the American landscape changed so drastically that even working class Americans could afford to own homes in the suburbs.
Yep.
This post-war exodus to the suburbs was part of a vast reorganization of power and money that affected American industry, race relations, and gender roles. And you can't really talk about the suburbs without mentioning white flight.
Yep.
So this is when white people left urban areas or leave urban areas and move out to white majority middle class suburbs.
And also many Black veterans and servicemen did not qualify for GI Bill housing support. So they had done the same exact fucking life-threatening shit but could not gain access to the government benefits that allowed them to become homeowners and create generational wealth.
We'll get to all of this.
Uh-huh.
So this was aided by the construction of highways for commutes and also low-interest mortgages for white families. These things combined with racist residential segregation like redlining and housing discrimination kept these communities largely white for a long time, and these communities haven't really changed much in many areas.
No, and even the construction of those highways themselves to get you to the suburbs were often at the expense of tearing down and displacing predominantly black and brown neighborhoods to build those highways, which
That's
is
like where they decided where the highways would go through.
Correct, which is why it's such a popular and compelling and historically accurate form of protest to block a highway. So don't fucking complain about that shit, because that highway took away generations of people's homes.
Yeah. And another thing. But we will come back to this. Between 1947 and 1951, the real estate development firm Levitt and Sons, run by Abraham Levitt and his sons.
You don't say.
William and Alfred developed Levittown, New York. Ever heard of it? Which is considered the first mass-produced suburb in the United States. And that, the way that was phrased kind of like took me back. But it's true. It was a fucking factory-produced, huge neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, and now we see them all the time. Like these housing developments where you have to have, you know, you've got HOAs and you can only have specific styles and colors and specific driveway width and grass height. It's all the same shit.
Yeah. So after William, one of the sons, came home from the Navy, he had the idea to mass produce homes for veterans returning from war. Levitt and Sons purchased a 7-square-mile tract of land on Long Island's potato and onion fields. They got to work putting up all of Levittown's residences within 4 years. So at one point, a home was built every 16 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah, using systems well known in American automobile manufacturing. So this is an industry where assembly lines were incredibly impactful.
That's wild. Assembly line housing.
So they applied the same concept to home building. So they had a variety of non-union subcontractors and workers who moved from house to house, each performing one of 26 highly specialized steps in the overall assembly process, which the whole thing used standardized materials, all purchased directly from the manufacturers. It was as fucking efficient as you could imagine.
That's wild. I mean, we see developments like this or technology like this evolving. Now you can like 3D print a house. Or I even remember when we were young, there was I lived in one of those cookie cutter manufactured neighborhoods in Minnetonka for sure. And
but the houses didn't look identical the way that some of these neighborhoods look now.
I feel like
creepy.
There were more variant options, but you still had to work with a specific builder and have like a specific options on your house. But I remember across Highway 101 from that neighborhood, there was a new build going in, and it was like a prefabricated home. And so we watched it being built. Like the walls were delivered on a truck, and like the roof unit was delivered on a truck and like put on with a crane. They built it in like a month.
That's so crazy.
It was crazy. Like they built the foundation like normal, and then the pieces of the house just started to arrive on a flatbed, and they just assembled it.
It's wild that is more either financially smart or more productive, like time-wise, than just building a house.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
It is weird.
Within a few years, the Levitts had transformed the former farmland into a suburban community housing thousands of veterans who had returned from World War II and their families, white veterans.
Yep.
The Levitts' homes were affordable, and they were equipped with futuristic stoves and television sets. This next part I thought was, I can see it so clearly in my mind, but now we know why. The streets in this community were designed along curvilinear patterns to create graceful, like unurban, non-grid-like feel to it.
Is that not fucking like your old street, my street's in Tamarack.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally what it was, with a cul-de-sac at the end.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Totally. Mm-hmm. These curvy streets directed cars going through the development to the outside of the community so that Levittown, like the majority, the inside, wouldn't be disturbed by noisy traffic.
Okay.
So you would never you would never drive through these neighborhoods as part of your commute from one end to the other.
Right. You're only there if you live there or you're visiting people who live there. Mm-hmm. Or you're abducting children from them and harming them.
I think we'll both get to that. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Even the maintenance of houses and yards were meticulously governed, and buyers had to agree to a list of rules such as not hanging laundry outside their homes. This is like early HOA. The Levitts would go on to create 2 other communities in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, also called Levittown. The iconic communities represented the American dream for many, and an estimated 40 million Americans moved to the suburbs between the 1940s and 1950s.
Got it.
I keep picturing like the neighborhood in Edward Scissorhands.
Yes, 1000%. That's what I had in my head too.
However, the story of the suburbanization of America is not just one of stability and idyllic domesticity, but a story of exclusion, segregation, and persecution. The Levitts did not just control how the houses of Levittown looked, but also how the homeowners looked. William Levitt only sold houses to white buyers, excluding African Americans from buying homes in his communities. And there was actually a clause in the contract to buy a house in Levittown that explicitly stated, quote, "The tenant agrees not to permit the premises to be used or occupied by any person other than members of the Caucasian race."
So you literally couldn't even have like black visitors.
Correct.
Brown visitors come into your house.
But
cool.
You could hire them. The employment and maintenance of other than Caucasian domestic servants shall be permitted. You can have slaves.
Jesus. Yeah. Essentially, I mean, obviously this was post-slavery, but it's the way that chattel slavery like continued and continues to show up in these agreements.
Yeah.
And it's legal.
Just fucking wild.
Or this was legal at the time.
Well, it was legal for a really long time.
Really fucking long time.
So they did have to drop that clause in 1948 after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Shelley versus Kramer that the enforcement of racially restrictive covenants violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. But, of course, Levitt continued to adhere to his racism, and Levittown quickly filled up with young white families. By 1953, the 70,000 people who lived in Levittown constituted the largest community in the U.S., and they had no black residents.
70,000 people.
70,000 people. It was the biggest community, quote unquote.
That's fucking sick.
Minority residents trickled in during the 50s, but the pattern was set. The whiteness was baked in, especially because we're talking about home ownership here.
Yeah, they're not just going to leave.
It's not an apartment. In the 1990 census report, 97.37% of the residents were white. And according to a 2020 census report, this is 30 years later, Levittown, New York has a total population of 51,758 people. Of that population, only 763 identify as Black or African American.
Wow.
Out of almost 52,000 people.
Yeah, this shit established such pervasive segregation. It's fucking wild.
It is. While the Levitts made it an unofficial policy not to sell homes to minorities, they couldn't legally prevent an existing homeowner from reselling their home to Black buyers.
Yeah, but realtors could refuse to show them these homes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's discrimination up and down the board.
1,000%. 1,000%.
But that is how, in 1957, a Black couple named William and Daisy Myers, along with their young children, bought a house in Levittown, Pennsylvania, from the former owners. When they moved in, there was a mob of people waiting for them. A white cross had been set up on their front lawn, and Confederate flags hung from some of their neighbors' windows. At the peak of the madness, the mob had to be beaten back from the Myers home by policemen with riot sticks.
That's sick.
There's a show on, I think it's like Amazon. Is it called Them?
Yep.
This happened.
It's basically this story.
It's this, but like it's kind of like a supernatural horror story, but it's just that it's this. It's definitely based partly on this.
Yep.
However, not all of the residents were part of the mob. Daisy claimed to have received supportive letters from many Levittowners and people from all over the world because this was huge news, like how fucking foul this was. Daisy stated, quote, "These letters were a treasure to us. Bill and I read them with deep satisfaction and treasured each one. The Myers remained in Levittown for 4 years after the protests and bravely defied those who sought to oust them." Like, imagine just like the bullying and blatant racism, not to mention microaggressions and all that. That must have been part of every minute of every day in that community with them.
They're not safe in their own home. I mean, Black people in America today are not safe in their own home. It's how we end up with fucking Breonna Taylor and Sonia Massey. But like this shit was just so much more out there and egregious. Now it's like passive aggressive. It's like quieter, I guess.
It's also built into our laws.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised that the cops even like beat back this mob, but it's like, okay, you're even getting to be too much for like us white supremacists to ignore this. We're going to get in trouble. You got to stop.
Yeah. So they only moved after those 4 years because William took a job in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But Daisy recounts this experience and more in her autobiography. I love the title of it. It's called Sticks and Stones.
Ooh, I want to read that. I'm going to write that down.
Daisy Myers, Sticks and Stones.
I'm going to order it right now.
In 1968, the Fair Housing Act prohibited discrimination concerning the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, or sex. It was intended to be a follow-up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It was the subject of a contentious debate in the Senate, but still it was passed by the House of Reps in the days after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And in 1988, so 20 years later, Congress passed the Fair Housing Amendment Act, which expanded the law to prohibit discrimination in housing based on disability or family status. These amendments brought the enforcement of the Fair Housing Act more squarely under the control of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, worst acronym in government.
The worst. Chewing your HUD. I know it's HUD, but it's just such a gross.
It's nasty.
Acronym.
So HUD sends complaints regarding housing discrimination to be investigated by the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity. So that is a bit of background into Suburbia, and now I have a really upsetting case for us.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Mary Agnes Klinsky. I also saw her middle name is Anne, but Mary A. Klinsky was only 18 years old and a senior at Raritan High School when she disappeared from the Keensburg Boardwalk in Keensburg, New Jersey. Just 8 days before her 19th birthday, she was a Libra. Mary was one of 9 children. She and some other siblings lived with one of their older brothers after their mother died and their father had left them. She was last seen alive on September 15th, 1965 on the Keensburg Boardwalk around 9 p.m. So she had left to go to a mailbox to send a letter to her fiance who was in the Navy. However, she never made it back home. The next day...
Also, my God, different times. Engaged at 18.
Her boyfriend in the Navy.
Probably also like 18, 19-year-old boyfriend who was already in the Navy. I can't. It was just... This was...
1965.
It was the 60s, baby.
It was the fucking 60s.
My God.
She probably listened to Elvis on a little record player in her room.
Probably really gave into Beatlemania.
She wore bobby socks. This is all speculation. I'm so sorry. She could have been like a goth. I have no idea.
I would love that for her.
Me too. The next day, her body was found naked and battered by Garden State Parkway road workers along an embankment at Telegraph Hill Park near what is now exit 116 of the Garden State Parkway. Is this the same thing as the New Jersey Turnpike?
No, they are different, but I've driven both. I've only shit on one, though.
Okay. We know which one that was.
Yeah, we know which one.
The legend lingers.
Never forget. Yeah. Some say that turd is still there.
Sick.
Over a decade later.
On dark and stormy nights, you can still smell it.
You can still smell. You can
If
still
you drive-
hear the straining.
You drive with your windows down on a hot summer night. Some say you can still smell
The
Amanda's
ghost of
shit.
Amanda's explosive diarrhea.
Okay, this is not funny. I'm so sorry that was the
No,
segue into my
obviously
next
not.
sentence. Okay.
God. Okay.
Okay. This poor young woman, Mary, had been sexually assaulted and her head was bashed with a blunt object.
Oof. Oh, God.
Keep the blunt object in mind.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Her murderer was not found for over 50 years.
Bro, why do we always pick cases with so many similarities? Because mine went cold for over 40 years.
Oh my God.
Different case, for sure. But, like,
Okay.
this shit's wild.
Yeah, there were too many super dark cases to choose from for this topic.
When you hear my case that I switched to because the other one felt too dark, I'm not well, which is the hat I'm wearing right now, which you can't see because this isn't a video episode, but I've been living in this hat for the last fucking 4 days.
Yeah. Well, it fits your vibe right now, your aura.
It sure does. It's covered in cat hair, which is very telling.
Also your aura. Okay, so her murderer was not found for over 50 years when in 2016, DNA evidence identified serial killer Robert Zarinsky as the perpetrator. He's such a piece of shit. Okay.
Yeah.
However, by the time of the discovery in 2016, Zarinsky had already been dead for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
He died in 2008 at the Southwood State Prison in Bridgetown, New Jersey, of pulmonary fibrosis. He was serving a life sentence there for killing a different teenage girl.
Oh, good.
So we don't know a lot about this fucker, but that is for the best.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you he was born on September 2nd, 1940. He's a Virgo. Zarinsky was to become one of New Jersey's most notorious killers.
Mm-hmm.
From an early age, like in his adolescence, he exhibited signs of major mental instability.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've gleaned from several different newspaper reports, he reportedly dominated the family, like kind of psychologically.
Okay.
He beat his sister Judith severely. I think it was his younger sister. One time so badly that she had to stay home from school for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
And his
Jesus Christ.
his mother had just given him the advice, quote, just don't hit her in the face.
Come on.
That's what his mother said.
So clearly no one is protected in this fucking household.
I think that he like really, really berated his father. So his father like didn't step in with a lot of this. The mother was obviously abusive in her own right, if assuming this is true.
At minimum, neglectful.
It also, I think, is worthwhile to note that his father was Jewish, his mother was not. So, like, I don't know, whatever weird family dynamics were happening, they play out. By the early 1960s, he was calling himself Lieutenant Schaefer, leader of the American Republican Army.
Don't like that.
Very neo-Nazi.
Yup.
He had become known to local authorities in Union County, New Jersey, for armed robbery and other alleged offenses around town. When he was 21 years old, Zarinsky was convicted for arson and grave desecration after he torched 5 lumber yards.
Holy shit.
And vandalized Jewish cemeteries in both Monmouth and Union counties, including somehow vandalizing over 1,500 headstones.
Oh, yeah. So he got into some fucking white supremacist ideation. He's doing some anti-Semitic shit. And his behavior is obviously escalating. It's starting with destruction of property and fucking beating up his sister. This is not going to go well.
He, like, tortured animals, too.
Oh, great. The dark triad.
Yeah. At one point, he spent time in Trenton State Psychiatric Hospital because he maintained that he was insane and didn't know right from wrong. And that was just one of multiple stays in various psychiatric hospitals.
Okay.
He eventually settled in Linden, New Jersey, and opened a wholesale produce business. At some point, he got married to a woman named Lynn, and they had a baby boy named Bobby baby boy.
Bobby Land.
But Bobby, besides having the misfortune of being born to this fucking guy, Bobby had asthma, and he ended up passing away before he was 2 years old from the asthma.
Oh my God. A lot of trauma around this guy.
A lot of trauma, but just given what happens, I would be really curious to know how he dealt with mourning his son.
Oh.
Because he's so fucking evil.
I'm going to guess it wasn't real healthy.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Oh, yeah, probably not. But again, don't know a lot about his background. We don't know much about his family and all that. Between 1969 and 1975, Zarinsky was linked to the disappearance and murders of Rosemary Calandriello, Doreen Carlucci, and Joanne DeLardo. So Rosemary was last seen on August 25th, 1969 in the Bayshore town of Atlantic Highlands. Sounds beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful, cute suburban part of New Jersey. It's lovely.
Yeah, and I chose this one for Suburbia Crimes because it's just it takes place in all of these different just really classic New Jersey suburbs.
Yep.
So Rosemary left her home around 6 p.m. on the way to the corner store for a carton of milk. She was described as a shy and bookish girl, and she had just turned 17.
Ugh,
the store was only 2 blocks from her home, and so she was expected to come back within a couple of minutes, but she never returned. Her mother reported her disappearance to the police about 2 hours after she was last seen. When the police canvassed the area, they found 4 of Rosemary's high school classmates, hanging around somewhere around the store, who claimed to have seen her in a car with a stranger who was an older man. The vehicle was described as a beat-up black and white Ford Galaxy convertible. I have a picture of it, if you're curious.
Okay.
The police then made a composite sketch based on the boy's description of that older man and put it in the newspaper. So this woman in town saw that picture in the newspaper and told investigators that a man who closely resembled the sketch and who drove a similar car had offered a ride to her 12-year-old daughter and the daughter's friend.
No.
He did this 3 or 4 different times. And even offered this 12-year-old girls some wine if they get in his car.
No.
So the girls, these smart little girls, they memorized his license plate. Okay. And I guess wrote it down. So the mom had this information. So the mom calls the cops, gives them the license plate number. And from that, the police determined that this car belonged to Robert Zarinsky.
All right.
So Zarinsky was arrested for contributing to the delinquency of a minor for offering alcohol to the 2 very underage girls. But still, the cops really thought he had something to do with Rosemary's disappearance, too, because it's the same car that the boys saw.
Yeah, pretty clear that it's connected.
This is so creepy. When the authorities inspected his car, the handles for both the window and the door on the passenger's side had been removed.
No.
One of Rosemary's hair clips was found on the floor of the car, and in the back seat, they found a pair of women's underwear.
Oh, no.
Rosemary's mom identified them as her daughters, but Zarinsky's wife, Lynn, said that they were hers.
She's coming to his aid.
She also said that, oh no, Robert was home on the night of the 25th.
So I don't think so, honey.
The police also found a ball peen hammer. I always thought it was ball pin.
Ball peen.
It's a certain type of hammer with blood-stained hair stuck to the end of it. After his arrest, Rosemary's classmates identified Zarinsky as the man they had seen driving her around.
Mm-hmm.
But there still wasn't, they were unable to move forward with Rosemary's case at this time. Currently, he's in jail for the contributing to the delinquency of the minors.
Mm-hmm.
So while he's in jail for that, he allegedly confessed to Rosemary's murder to a cellmate and said no one's ever going to find the body.
Oh, my God.
So again, at this time, he was only convicted on the delinquency charges, but that conviction was overturned on appeal.
No.
And he was released.
Oh, God.
And authorities hadn't been able to bring charges for the Rosemary disappearance because they hadn't found her body.
Oh, my God.
So they had delayed prosecution while they searched for Rosemary's body. And eventually, Zarinsky's attorney won dismissal for the whole charge because his client was denied a speedy trial.
Oh, fuck.
So a massive fucking ball was dropped there.
Yeah, loopholes used, balls dropped. This fucking dangerous asshole is back on the street.
Yep. In December 1974, the authorities had their eyes on Zarinsky again for the murders of 14-year-old Doreen Carlucci and 15-year-old Joanne DeLardo. The girls had been beaten badly and had external wounds on their faces and their bodies. They had each been strangled with an electrical cord, which was very similar to the murder of a 17-year-old girl named Linda Balabano, whose body was recovered from the Raritan River in early 1969 in Union Township. So that was 5 years prior. So the cops investigating the murders of these two young girls, Doreen and Joanne, were like, oh, they were strangled with this electrical cord. That's how Linda was killed.
Okay.
So they thought they were connected, but they didn't have any other evidence or
Like
leads
additional-
with Linda's murder.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, there was not enough evidence to prosecute in any of those three cases. So there's just not enough evidence to get this fucker. In 1979, Zarinsky was finally convicted of the murder of Rosemary Calandriello. So this was the first case in New Jersey history that allowed for a person to be prosecuted for murder despite authorities not having a body.
Okay.
So
That's a big deal.
That was a big deal. He was sentenced to life in prison for her murder.
Damn.
In 1988, Zarinsky admitted that he accidentally killed Rosemary.
Oops.
And so he buried her body in a grave in Northwest New Jersey.
Oh, my God.
He also told another investigator that he had thrown her body into the Atlantic Ocean.
What the fuck?
So he's fucking psychotic. He's full of shit. He's just fucking with them. And ultimately, her body still has never been recovered.
Oh, that's fucking awful. Yeah, and he's just wish-washing his story for his own shits and giggles.
Yeah. There's also, so obviously he has a bit of a profile.
Oh, no.
But there's also the murder of Officer Charles Bernowski. So this was back in 1958. So
oh, wow.
This was
early.
This was way before. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So in 1958, Officer Bernowski interrupted a burglary taking place at a Pontiac dealership in Rahway, New Jersey. So he tried to stop. There were two burglars. He fired at them. He hit both of them.
Oh, shit.
But didn't kill them or injure them too severely. And then they fired back at him and they killed him.
Oh, damn.
So they killed the police officer.
Okay.
A single fingerprint was left at the scene. And so they took it as forensics at the time, but did not solve the case back in 1958. And in fucking 1999,
no way.
Police finally got a match for that fingerprint.
And was it?
It belonged to a man named Theodore Schiffer, who was Zarinsky's first cousin.
No way. So they met and done it together?
Yep. So Zarinsky's sister, Judith, the one who he fucking beat up on,
yeah,
testified at trial that Zarinsky had been there too at this burglary where the cop ended up being killed.
Good for her. Call his ass out. He never did a goddamn good thing for you.
This is so fucked. Like, the family dynamics here are so fucked.
Ugh.
Okay, so she testified that he had been there too, that the two men came home to the Zarinsky house, like, after this, the night of the shooting, and they were injured. And Zarinsky said, quote, Teddy and I shot a cop. And then Judith and their mother used tweezers and a tongue depressor to dig the bullets out of Robert Zarinsky and the cousin Teddy.
So made them complicit.
Yes.
In some shit. The sister, not so much. She's a kid. But the mom was protecting him from fucking day one.
They all did. The father had been home too. So while they're digging their bullets out of their bodies or whatever, like, Zarinsky basically was like, you're never going to fucking talk about this to anyone ever.
Holy shit.
And I read in another article that the next day when the father was reading in the newspaper that the cop had died, he threw up.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, because it's like I helped, treat my son after he just murdered somebody.
And he killed a cop. So the fucking stranglehold that he had on his whole family.
They must have been terrified of him.
And they never said anything. This was in...
That was in the 50s.
That happened in 1958. We're all the way to 2000 right now.
Yep. And they never came forward with it.
And this is the first time anyone from that family has said anything about Zarinsky or Teddy being there.
And I wonder, so he was in jail when the sister gave that testimony, right? Or was on trial at least? So it's
he was in jail. He was in jail.
So it's like she only maybe felt safe to even say anything then because he was already behind bars. And I assume his parents were dead.
Probably. Yeah, I think it's safe to assume they were dead.
That's fucking wild.
But Judith's credibility and motivations were questioned when it came up that she had recently embezzled like $120,000 out of a mutual fund belonging to Zarinsky. It has something to do with, like, after a family member's death, he had a trust set up.
Yeah, and
somehow his sister was siphoning money out of there.
I mean, good for her. Fuck that guy. But I get why that would undermine, like, you might just want to put him away. You might have a vendetta against him. You were stealing all of this money.
Yeah. So the jury or whoever just didn't believe her testimony that Zarinsky was there. So they did not pin this on Zarinsky also.
Fuck.
And Teddy went to prison for somehow only 3 years.
Damn.
Bernowski's widow sued Zarinsky in civil court for wrongful death and was awarded $9.5 million.
Good.
She only got $150,000, and then Zarinsky, like, appealed that decision.
No.
And he won. So she lost that $150K and had to pay it back.
Oh my God.
This is the worst part. Apparently, when Zarinsky got the check from her, he returned it, demanding additional interest.
What a fucking piece of shit.
Meanwhile, he's just sitting in prison. Like,
yeah, what are you gonna do with $100,000?
Yeah, it's just
I mean, that'll
it's
set
so
you up
fucked.
in commissary, but, like, fuck you.
He's a sociopath. In 2008, he was indicted for the 1968 murder of 13-year-old Jane Derua of Middletown, New Jersey, but he fucking went and died before that trial could begin.
Oh my God. So they didn't really see any justice either.
Correct.
Great.
So we have 13-year-old Jane and those 3 girls that they didn't have enough evidence for.
But, like, he for sure did it.
He definitely did it.
Yeah.
So since then, Zarinsky has been linked to the murders of other young women and also, like, found that he had done it. So we had Mary Klinsky, who I opened this case with. They confirmed that he was her murderer because of DNA testing that they were finally able to confirm in 2016. There's also 19-year-old Anne Logan, who was found murdered, and they were able to... At least have evidence that suggests that he was responsible for her death.
Poor girls.
She was from Elizabeth, New Jersey. As recently as 2016, Zarinsky was being looked at again into the death of Linda Balabano, which is the older one who was found in the river got strangled. And on top of these, he had repeatedly boasted that he could solve 10 murders in an attempt to get more lenient sentencing. So we really don't know how many victims Robert Zarinsky had. He was only put in prison for one of them.
Yeah, it could be a lot more. Ugh.
But yeah, so prowling around suburbia, just preying on young girls.
Wow.
That's Robert Zarinsky.
Sick.
Rotten hell.
He's sick.
Rotten hell.
Rotten hell. Yuck.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
I need a bite of pasta after that.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse, so fill your gullet. Let's take a quick moment to hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll get into more really fucked up shit.
Fantastic.
In the suburbs. Most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions, but guess what? It's way more than that. The real number is closer to $300 a month on subscriptions. That is literally thousands of dollars a year. Half of which we've probably forgotten about because you sign up for that 10-day trial to watch that one video and then just forget that now you have this subscription you never use. So if that's sounding familiar to you, it certainly has been my situation. Start using Rocket Money. They found a bunch of subscriptions that I'd forgotten all about when I started, and then they helped me cancel the ones I didn't want anymore. I had them cancel. I know I've talked about this before, but when I moved into my house, I did the change of address form and signed up for all these free magazines just for funsies, and then didn't realize they were gonna charge me to keep sending them.
Just for funsies.
Soups didn't want those anymore. Guess who helped me get rid of them? Rocket Money, my saviors.
Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, you get full control over your subscriptions and just a clear view of your expenses in one place.
One cute app.
Gone are the days of having a whole Word document to track everything. Or a bullet journal. That's what I was using.
Girl, no.
It's not effective and it's not sustainable.
No.
So Rocket Money is way better. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place. And if I see something I don't want, Rocket Money can help me cancel it with just a few taps. They just have everything consolidated in one spot that I'm usually surprised by something I see in there.
Oh, yeah.
And they also show me this month's spending compared to last month's, so I can really know where my money is going. If a subscription price changes, it'll send you an alert. Yeah, and plus they'll help me create a custom budget and keep my spending on track. I definitely need that.
Love it.
Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, submit it, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They'll deal with customer service for you.
Music to my ears.
This is the best thing for someone with phone anxiety. Hi, me.
Hi.
Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features.
Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/gals. That's rocketmoney.com/gals. rocketmoney.com/gals.
Power up your life with superior brain and body nutrition products from IQ Bar. Their plant protein bars are the perfect low-carb grab-and-go breakfast. Their IQ Mix zero-sugar hydration drinks replenish electrolytes lightning quick. And their IQ Joe mushroom coffees, are packed with magnesium and lion's mane adaptogen to keep you focused all day long. There are many reasons why IQ Bar has over 10,000 five-star reviews and counting.
Start each day right with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their ultimate sampler pack includes all three. Get 7 IQ Bar flavors, 4 IQ Mix flavors, and 4 IQ Joe flavors. And today, our listeners get an exclusive offer of 20% off plus free shipping. Just text GALS, GALS, to 64,000. And this is seriously the best thing ever. That Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. They are entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial sweeteners. And like Lucy mentioned, they're also low carb. So if you are someone like me, I'm a type 1 diabetic, I have some dietary restrictions, and I don't like making breakfast. That's like often my most skipped meal of the day. And this has completely changed the game for me. I can grab one of these IQ bars or one of their drink mixes and start my day just feeling a little bit more nourished, feeling a little bit more sharp, ready to go. And I'm certainly not out here running a marathon, maybe some errands, I don't know. But whether you're doing either of those things, IQ Bar empowers doers with superior brain and body nutrition. Their plant protein bars are packed with high quality ingredients to keep you physically and mentally fit. IQ Bars are vegan, they're gluten-free, they are low in sugar and carbs. Seriously, it's like barely a unit of insulin for me to eat one of these, which is like huge. Every flavor, including chocolate sea salt, peanut butter chip, one of my faves, wild blueberry, that's my go-to, and more. They're all absolutely delicious. The IQ mix, I also love this. It is a zero sugar drink mix that hydrates with electrolytes, improves mood with magnesium, and boosts clarity with lion's mane adaptogen. On top of these benefits, each flavor is tasty and refreshing. This is such a great way to get me to drink more water, I am telling you. And again, I don't have to worry about all the carbs.
Refuel smarter with IQ Bar's Ultimate Sampler Pack. That is 7 IQ bars, 4 IQ mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And now our special podcast listeners get 20% off all IQ Bar products. Plus, get free shipping. To get your 20% off, just text GALS to 64,000. Get your discount right now. Text GALS to 64,000. That's GALS to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Okay, are you ready for my case?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, my mental health hanging by a thread already. This case almost did me in, and this was what I picked after pivoting away from another horrific case. So there's seemingly no escape from the monsters in this world. So let's just all spiral out of control together, shall we?
Woo!
For this story, we have to travel back in time to 1975 in idyllic Wheaton, Maryland.
Cute.
It was early spring, snow is beginning to melt, it's giving way to green grass and hanging out outside and going on little adventures. And sisters Sheila and Catherine Lyon, aged 12 and 10 respectively, were at the local Wheaton Plaza Mall to hang out with their friends, eat lunch at the food court, and enjoy the mall-wide Easter decoration display.
Oh my God.
I know.
I loved going to the mall for like 5 hours straight.
Oh, same.
Yeah. I can
I
smell
like
the
it
caramel
less
corn.
now that it's my own money that I'm counting on to enjoy my time at the mall. And in 1975, like, they literally had like $2 each, and they were able to like go to the mall for a full day and get pizza, like at different times.
And the malls are like thriving.
Sheila and Catherine were middle sisters to older brother Jay and younger brother Joseph. They had a modest suburban upbringing, kind of squished into their little home, paid for by their father, who was a radio personality named John Lyon. Their mother, Mary, stayed at home to care for the 4 children. On the day of the girls' visit to the mall, which was March 25th, 1973, both Sheila and Catherine were within about a week of their 13th and 11th birthdays. They were born right around the same time, just 2 years apart.
Is it 73 or 75? You've got 2 things here.
Oh, it's 75. Sorry.
Okay.
5. I mistyped. They couldn't wait for their promised family outing, which was a special meal out for their birthdays. But they wouldn't make it to their birthdays. I can't help it. It's what happened.
I know.
I hate it.
We have the same notes. It's horrible.
It's awful. It's awful. With about $5 between them, they walked to the nearby mall, as they had done many times before, to meet their friends with the promise to return by 4 p.m. to be home in time for family dinner. That was like their curfew. But as we know, they would not make it home. Their older brother Jay had been at the mall as well, doing his own thing with his friends, and he did remember seeing them eating lunch at a popular pizza parlor within the shopping center around 12:30 or 1 p.m. Another eyewitness indicated that they had seen the girls just before that time sitting outside the pizza parlor speaking to a tall, white, clean-cut, middle-aged man. But when Jay saw them shortly after in the pizza parlor, they were sitting and eating alone. So this man had spoken to them, but didn't join them for lunch, as far as we know.
Men should never talk to 10 and 12-year-old girls.
But yeah, especially that, it gets creepier. So
I bet.
After lunch, around 2 p.m., the girls started to make their way home, which was less than half a mile from the mall. So this is like a quick walk. This eyewitness sighting would be the last confirmed sighting of the girls. Their mother's 4 p.m. curfew came and went, leaving her frustrated as she was preparing dinner and thinking like, oh, they got caught up at the mall. They're not going to make it in time for dinner. I've been working all day on this shit. Where are my kids?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she never expected that her children had been taken.
Oh, God.
And then when they missed dinner entirely and still weren't home or heard from by 7 p.m., she knew something was really wrong and reported the girls missing to the police. So this is just a reminder that it's a common myth that you have to wait like 24 to 48 hours to report someone missing. You don't. Movies and TV lie to you. She did the right thing. As soon as she knew that something was up, she went to the police and reported this.
Is that true for everyone, or is it just true for minors that you don't have to wait?
It's true for everyone. Now, whether or not the police will take that seriously right away is a totally different thing. Like if an adult goes missing, they might not jump into action because adults can do whatever the fuck they want.
Mm-hmm.
But you can file a missing persons report that day. In fact, you can insist on doing that even if the cops try to fucking tell you, why don't you give it a minute and see if they contact you? Like, no, you can insist on filing a fucking report. And should. An extensive search was immediately launched, and it is important to point out here that these are affluent, white, female children. They were not being accused of being runaways. They weren't being accused of being involved in drugs or sex work. This family was immediately believed, and resources were put into finding these children. And this is how it should be for every family.
Mm-hmm.
And so many Black and brown families are not taken seriously. They're failed by the system. Like, there's a reason that there is an entire movement for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. This should always be the response, despite the color of a victim's skin or their economic status. And it's just fucking heartbreaking that it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we, the public, can help with that by like sharing those stories and sharing when you see those missing persons reports and like putting the pressure on the media to cover them so that it's not just pretty little white girls that are getting this kind of attention as they deserve to get.
Mm-hmm.
But other children deserve this attention too. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So police were going door to door, interviewing everyone in the community, everyone who worked or may have been at the mall that day. They deployed search and rescue dogs who did pick up a scent trail from the shopping center across a parking lot and to another store, but the trail ended outside that other store, like in a parking lot, leading them to believe that they'd been taken into a car and driven away. They had scuba teams in local ponds, streams, sewers. It's tragically common for kiddos to wander off to be attracted to water.
Oh.
But alas, there was no sign of these girls in any bodies of water nearby. Day after day, the community was organizing search parties. The neighborhood was plastered with flyers. The family offered a $9,000 reward, and tips were certainly coming in, but nothing was actually sticking. And of course, there's another sick side effect of these tragedies and these stories being in the media, which is necessary. We need public attention on these stories, but it also allows for extortionists to come out of the woodwork and exploit these situations.
Mm-hmm.
And this was no different. There were hoax calls from all over the country. Self-proclaimed psychics offering their services, some of whom the family did engage with out of desperation. And let me be very clear, I can't say I wouldn't do the same. I'm not shaming them for this at all. I think it's fucked up that these services were offered directly to them. Like, don't go to the family with this shit. If you want to work with the police or an investigator, like, okay, but this family's going through so much.
Yeah.
Don't be like, hey, if you pay me, I'll do a reading. Like, ew. No.
That's
That's fucking not it. One extortionist even claimed to have the children and tried to get a fucking ransom, demanding that John Lyon, quote, leave a briefcase with $10,000 inside an Annapolis courthouse restroom.
Oh my God. That is sick.
Not wanting to make the mistake of possibly catching the person, like not catching the person who did this, the police did have John deliver a case with only $100 in it at the agreed upon location as the police staked it out. The scammer, though, caught wise and never picked up the case, calling John later to basically bitch at him for having gone there and seen a bunch of cops. So, like, he knew it was a setup and he bailed and he was mad about it.
Jesus Christ.
But John, now feeling like this whole ransom thing was bullshit, said that he would not engage any further until he could speak to his daughters on the phone, get some proof that he has them and that they're okay. And obviously unable to procure the voices of these children, this guy hung up and he never called again.
Oh my God.
So put this family through hell, gave them hope that the girls were alive to try and get 10 grand.
10 fucking grand.
Which is a lot of money, and this was in 1975. That was a fuck ton of money then, but like,
no, I mean,
nothing.
It could have been $10 million.
It wouldn't matter. It's just sick. It's sick that people do this shit.
Yeah.
Some leads did come in, starting with a neighborhood boy who had been at the mall that day and had seen the Lyon sisters outside of Orange Bowl Pizza. That's where they ate.
This is really making me want pizza.
I know, right? He said that around 1 p.m., they were talking with a tall man, about 6 feet in height, clean cut and conservatively dressed, middle-aged, maybe in his 50s or 60s, in a brown suit. He got the nickname Tape Recorder Man because because according to the boy, he was carrying a briefcase that, when opened to show the girls, appeared to have a tape recorder inside. The man appeared to be conducting some sort of interview, having the girls speak into a portable microphone under the guise of broadcasting them on local radio. Now, their own dad was a local radio DJ. And this got me wondering, like, does this mean that this could be someone who was known to the family, knew this detail, knew that the girls would be familiar and interested in, like, such an odd activity?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or they might have been completely uninterested in it because they're like, yeah, my dad does that too. Possibly.
But they engaged. There are witnesses that saw them, like, giggling and talking into the microphone. Like, they were drawn in by this offer. Authorities were convinced this unknown man was the lead suspect and put together a composite sketch that was being circulated around town. But there can never just be one creepy man at the mall.
Oh, God.
Other teens in the area who were at the mall that same day, specifically, some reports said she was 14, some said she was 15, but they said she was just a little bit older than the older Lyon sister.
That's a big gap when you're adolescent girls.
Yeah. Her name was Danette Shea. She said she saw the girls at the mall as well and had her own encounter with a creeper, a young man she described as in their late teens or early 20s, tall and lanky, acne and scar-riddled skin, long greasy hair, and sloppily dressed, had been following her around the mall and staring at her to the extent that she confronted him with the classic line, "Take a picture, it'll last longer." I love Danette Shea so much.
Yeah, that person sounds horrifying.
Yep.
Okay,
we end up figuring out who this person was, and he's terrible.
Good.
Despite this encounter, authorities were still focusing on the older suspect, though they did have a composite sketch of the younger man made as well from Danette's description, and it was circulated around town, though not with the same urgency as the older suspect. They were just really convinced that it was this old guy that a bunch of people had seen at the mall.
Okay.
Leads were not popping up based on these two suspected descriptions, but authorities at least had established a solid timeline. So 11 a.m. to midday, Catherine and Sheila leave their home to visit the Wheaton Plaza shopping center, having promised their mother to return home by 4 p.m. 1 p.m., a neighborhood child, a friend of both sisters, sees the girls sitting together outside the Orange Bowl speaking to an unidentified middle-aged man. Around 2 p.m., the girl's older brother Jay enters the shopping center to purchase a kite. He observes his sisters alone eating pizza at the Orange Bowl. 2:30 to 3, the final verified sighting of the sisters occurs when a friend observes Catherine and Sheila walking westward down a street from the shopping center toward their home. 4 p.m., the curfew set by their mother passes. The girls are expected home and don't arrive. 7 p.m., police are called and activate a search for the sisters. With the composite sketches circulating, one compelling lead did come forward. A young man named Lloyd Lee Welch Jr., living in nearby Appalachia, came to authorities confirming he had seen the older suspect in the sketch. He was able to corroborate other eyewitness testimony that he had seen the man approach the girls, take out his recorder, and tell them he was, quote, recording people's voices to put them on the radio. This was information they already had, but he went a step further and said he had seen the same man getting the girls to go into a red Camaro with white upholstery and driving away from the mall. He claimed the girls looked distressed. So my question is, why didn't you report this right away?
See something, say something.
Well, he didn't come forward sooner because the info was determined to be a lie.
Oh,
he gave a lengthy 6-page statement and submitted to a polygraph test, which he promptly failed, and then admitted that his statement had been false. Thinking he was after the reward money, the cops cut him loose and scrapped his statement. His punishment for falsifying a police statement was allegedly a stern talking to by the cops. Like, they gave him a lecture, sent him on his way, and didn't really think about him again. Fortunately, his statement, though it had been marked as like false with the notes of like what had happened in his interview, stayed on in the records for this case. So it could be revisited later, which is, thank God they didn't just literally throw it out.
Okay.
Because we'll get back to this guy. Shortly after this statement is given, 11-year-old William Krebs comes forward to report that he had seen the girl sitting inside a white 2-door Pontiac sedan on Route 211 in Centerville, Virginia. So on the move.
Oh, how far away is that from?
It's not super far. They're in the Maryland area.
Okay.
But all of this is kind of like the suburbs of DC, outside of DC. So it's not like really, really far away, but
like they're in a different state, but it's not like they're in a different state. They're states away.
Exactly. Okay. It's not like the Midwest where everything is really spread out. It's like you being in a different state could still mean you're fairly close to home.
Got it.
The description of the girls he provided did match the Lyon sisters, and he stated they were crying in the car.
Oh, no.
I know. Another witness came forward on April 7th, claiming to have seen the girls in Manassas, Virginia, in the backseat of a beige Ford station wagon on the night they disappeared. They looked at the composite sketch of the older suspect and believed that to be the man driving the car, and that they had seen him speed through a red light making his way toward Interstate Route 66. Quote, the station wagon had Maryland license plates beginning with the possible combination of DMT6. The last 2 digits were obscured due to a bend in the license plate. Like it was kind of dinged up. The known combination was issued in Cumberland, Hagerstown, and Baltimore at the time. This report caused a media frenzy with the sudden reality that the girls could be taken anywhere, that they're on the move, and the need for multi-state support in solving this case and bringing them home. Despite the public's best efforts, they simply couldn't track down this car or this man. And there was like some early version of internet sleuthing happening where it was pretty popular for especially people who drove trucks or who were on the road a lot, either for work or for pleasure, to have like the CB radio or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so there was a whole like movement around the DC area and all the surrounding states that all these people on these radios were like looking for these cars, and they would let each other know and give these reports to the police, but it just didn't bring anything substantial. Like people were really trying, and for whatever reason, this guy just kept slipping through the cracks. More reports popped up of a man fitting this description of the tape recorder man, wandering around other area malls, stopping young girls and asking them to recite a voicemail message that he'd written on an index card using his briefcase recorder and microphone.
Ew.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, and like I hate giving cops the benefit of the doubt ever, but maybe they legitimately couldn't confirm this, the police didn't publicly share or acknowledge the link between these reports and the suspect that they were pursuing. And I understand that it gets really hard because the more details about the case that are shared, the more people's imaginations can run wild.
Absolutely.
The more openings there are for people to exploit and create stories trying to get the reward money. I can imagine it can be extremely challenging to slog through hundreds of witness statements and like be able to know what's legit and what's a figment of imagination. And I don't envy that job that detectives have at all.
Yeah.
Because they really were getting a lot of information. They just didn't fucking know if it was real. It's not anything that could be like verified or corroborated with hard evidence.
And by the time you like get to these, they're in a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's super, super slippery.
And these statements were coming in days and sometimes weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them last week on Highway 221 or whatever, heading this way. Well, they could be fucking anywhere by now.
And it makes it even more complicated, like keeping track of who saw what, because, you know, once they have like a lead, then they might be able to kind of back someone into a corner by them giving information that nobody else, that they hadn't released to the public, that nobody else would have known.
Mm-hmm. And I think they had some information like that, but the problem was they'd not found the girls.
Yeah.
No bodies, no evidence, like nothing. So the few details they had, they want to share with the public so they can get some fucking leads, but then they don't have much to keep private that they know for sure only the killer or kidnapper would know.
Yeah.
Like they're running on very little at this point. And it's the 70s. There isn't fucking CCTV cameras all over this mall. Had there been, this would be a totally different situation. We don't have the DNA technology. We don't have the video recording technology, or certainly not prevalent enough that like most stores have that shit at that point. They just don't have it. So the search continued for weeks looking for the girls, even bringing in the National Guard to assist with the efforts, and still no trace was found. The case remained open but went cold. Some suspects came and went in the coming years, even narrowing in on a convicted pedophile who had been in the area at the time, but there simply wasn't any solid evidence to confirm him as a suspect.
I can't imagine being the family of these two little girls. They just vanished.
And then they have no idea what had happened to them.
And all of these tips and whatever coming, from all different directions. Like, I would just be like, don't tell me anything unless it's something.
Honestly, between the tips that kind of go nowhere and all the fucking fakers that are coming at them just trying to get a piece of the action or get some money or whatever the fuck they're doing, I don't know how they survived. I mean, this would be horrifying, devastating, heartbreaking.
It'd be a living hell.
It'd be a living hell. And it just really speaks to like the strength of the human condition. And I could never be that strong. I mean, I'm like scared of my cat dying, and you're gonna have to like put me on suicide watch. I could never get through something like this. Absolutely fucking not. I know I'm not strong enough. So
Well, you're pretty strong.
Yeah, not this strong.
Yeah.
Nope, I know my limits. I can't. Decades go by.
Jesus Christ.
Decades. In 2013, so 11 years ago, the case was reopened for investigation long after the original officers had retired. Now, the case hadn't been closed, but it was so cold that literally nobody was touching it. And a new team came in, and they were like, we're going to fucking pour over all this shit. Like, they were hoping that fresh eyes going over all the statements, all the records affiliated with this case would catch something that had gone unnoticed before, and that maybe advancements in DNA technology could help, that like maybe archives and databases of perpetrators being more accessible could unlock something, some connection.
Yeah. Now we have the internet. You could compare. I don't know. This is still a long shot.
I know, but they tried, and they did go back over the Lloyd Welch statement. The statement had been kept in the records, but essentially marked as a useless lie.
This is the guy who said that it was a red car with a white inside.
Yep. And took
the
the
girls looked
polygraph and
scared.
failed. Yep.
Okay.
And then was like, JK, I made it all up. And they were like, bro, fuck you. Get out of here. And then essentially tossed the statement and never went back to him again. But they had kept the statement in the files, at least. They looked further into this guy, and a mugshot from really close to when this kidnapping took place was on file, because he had like robbed a convenience store or some shit. He went to jail for some burglary.
Okay.
And they looked at the mugshot and then looked at the composite sketch from Danette Shea.
Oh, shit.
And they were like, that's the creep that was following Danette Shea. Like, it was spot on. Like, every detail.
Oh, the guy with the long greasy hair?
Yeah, greasy hair guy. And so they looked deeper into his criminal background, and his criminal behavior had begun in 1973. These kidnappings took place in 1975 and had escalated like crazy until 1997, when he finally got like a solid prison conviction and he was in prison. So he had a very violent rap sheet that included rape, intimate partner violence, and assault. And he was finally incarcerated in 1997 for 29 years because he was incarcerated in Delaware for molesting a 10-year-old girl. a few years prior.
Oh, my God.
So he's got patterns with children.
So he called to throw them off, give them the wrong information.
I think that's exactly what he did. And may have had an accomplice.
Oh.
Like Tape Recorder Man.
Tape Recorder Man.
And I have theories on that we'll get to.
Okay.
So fortunately, police are like, all right, he's serving a 29-year sentence at this prison in Delaware. We know where to fucking find him. We're going to go talk to him. And at first they were like, there's no way this guy is going to talk to us. But they sat down for the interview on October 16th in 2013. And dude was a talker. The interview lasted 8 hours. This is the first time they sat down with him. He talked for 8 hours.
God.
The first thing he said to them when they sat down across the table from Lloyd was, quote, I know why you're here. You're here about those 2 missing kids.
Oh, my God.
Can you believe? 40 years later, almost, at this point.
Oh, my God. He was right under their noses.
He came in. He was in the police house, whatever, office, whatever the fuck.
The
department.
police house.
Jesus. My brain is wrecked. I can't.
Oh, my God.
The interviewing detective, whose name was David Davis, which, like, guys,
don't do that.
Don't do this to your kids, please.
Don't marry into that.
No.
You don't have to change your name.
No, it doesn't have to be like this. Had a heartbreaking response. He said, quote, this is what he said to Lloyd. He said, these 2 little girls here have never been found, and their parents are damn near 80 years old and have no idea what happened to their daughters. That's why we're here to talk to you.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that just fucking broke my heart. I mean, these people have been waiting all these years, slogging through all this bullshit. And he was there the whole fucking time.
Oh, my God.
And he still fucks with them. He once again admitted to seeing the girls in the mall parking lot, but wouldn't confirm that he'd ever been inside the mall. He retold his story of seeing the girls being put into a car. And when detectives... Now, I have my thoughts about this. So detectives showed him a photo of another suspect. Remember how I mentioned that known pedophile from like years prior who had been living in the area at the time, who might have fit the description of Tape Recorder Man?
Mm-hmm.
They showed him a picture of that guy, a mugshot of that guy. And he was like, yeah, that's him. That's the guy I saw. And I feel kind of weird about that. Like, why hand him a photo of somebody to pin this on?
Especially if it were a real person who really could have done it.
Been a suspect,
it should have just been like, like a stock photo. Because then they would know he's full of shit.
Right. And I also don't think that it was like, here's a lineup of mugshot photos of people that we think could have been involved. Show us the guy. I think they just showed him a picture of the guy.
That one guy.
And he was like, yeah, that was him. That's totally the guy I saw.
Oh, my God.
So this known pedophile suspect was a man named Raymond Rudolph Molesky Sr., who at the time of the... Molesky, seriously. Who at the time of the sister's disappearance lived a few short miles away from the Lyon family. Molesky had been convicted of the November 1977 shooting deaths of his 35-year-old wife, Dolores, and 17-year-old son, Raymond Jr., in addition to wounding his youngest son following a heated domestic violence argument.
Holy shit.
He was convicted and sentenced to 40 years in prison, and he fit a lot of the aspects of the eyewitness accounts of the Tape Recorder Man, including the fact that he walked with a slight limp, which was a detail that had come up in witness statements. He also looked a hell of a lot like the composite sketch. Quote, based on information later given to authorities by prison informants and Molesky's own subsequent claims to hold knowledge regarding the sister's abduction, which he offered to share with investigators in exchange for more favorable prison conditions, which also is tough because it's like, you could be making this shit up to try and get yourself a better setup, knowing you're not going to be let out of prison. You're a family annihilator. He was going to die in prison. Why not?
He's got a lot of cards.
Exactly. And authorities searched his former residence in early April of 1982, although no evidence was ever discovered. And then Molesky died in prison in 2010, so he couldn't even be interviewed with this additional information in 2013 when they reopened this case. And like, that gets me wondering, could he have been there but not been the one to abduct the girls? Was he tape recorder man, but he didn't actually act that day? Maybe he was just on the prowl.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I want to go down that rabbit hole and believe that these poor girls could have encountered not one, but two child predators on the same fucking day that weren't even working together?
Yeah.
It's certainly possible. I don't think it's likely, but either way, I feel fucking ill.
Yeah, I don't think I want to think about that.
But I think I have a theory on who tape recorder man is, and we will get to it.
Do you think tape recorder man is the person who abducted them?
I think he is the person who helped abduct them, but I don't think it's Molesky.
Okay.
So they couldn't get creepy Lloyd Lee Welch Jr. out of their minds. It was like,
I can't either.
No, something is fucking off with this guy. And he couldn't get the Lyon sisters off of his own mind. And eventually, a couple years after his interview, so 5 years later in 2017, at 60 years old, Lloyd finally came forward with details confirming that he had, in fact, abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered the Lyon sisters. Their remains had not been found because he had taken their bodies to a plot of rural family land like miles and miles away and burned them.
Oh, God.
John and Mary Lyon, the parents, along with their two sons, lived to see him confess in court and be handed an additional 48 years on top of the sentence he was already serving. So he will also die in prison. But what he wouldn't confess to was whether he had an accomplice, kind of, we'll get to it, or where and how the girls were killed. He gave like pretty vague details that were compelling, and they truly believe that this is their guy. But
yeah, but we want to believe that too.
We do, but also like it sounds like he knew enough and provided enough detail that it was like, okay.
He was at least involved.
Yes. So remains can't be tested because they're long gone. They were burned 40 years ago and have since washed away from this area. Mm-hmm. There are mysteries that may never be solved, and Lloyd wasn't doing enough talking to really solve them. So like how the girls were killed isn't known, and I almost wonder if that's a good thing because what we do know is fucked up enough. So yeah. He said, quote, he acknowledged that he was at the mall the day the Lyon sisters were reported missing, according to an affidavit detectives later submitted in court. When asked what happened to the girls, Welch said he believed they were abducted, raped, and burned up. The investigators continued trying to uncover as much as they could about Welch. They learned that his mother was killed when the car driven by his father, who was drunk, Lee Sr., crashed. Lloyd Lee Welch was a passenger. He was placed in foster homes. He ran away and started using drugs as a teenager, according to court records. So he had a fucked up childhood. Mm-hmm. Doesn't absolve him from what he did, but he was not well. As an adult, he traveled around the country, sometimes hitchhiking, and at one point started a landscaping business in South Carolina. In that state, he was also convicted of sexually assaulting a 10-year-old. In interviews, he described the house on his dad's rural property, which had a, quote, concrete dungeon-like basement with access only from a rear external door.
Ew.
So again, maybe it's best. Right. Maybe it's best that we never know the details of what happened.
Oh my God.
He claimed that his father and uncle had dismembered the girls and ordered him to burn the remains on the property. And though the testimony seems credible, there isn't a lot of evidence after 40 plus years to confirm this. Quote, detectives and forensic technicians did search the basement in 2015, finding it exactly how Welch had described it. They drilled into the concrete, trying to find patches of old blood. They did find some. Prosecutors would later write in court papers. Scientists were also able to find human DNA in at least one of the samples, but they were so old and poor quality, they couldn't determine a source. They couldn't get additional information other than it's human blood, and there was enough of it to have soaked down into the concrete.
Oh my God.
So that is...
And then there's just a brick wall. We don't know anything else.
Pretty much.
Oh my God.
Lloyd Sr., the dad, had died before any of this came to light, so he couldn't be interviewed. And his uncle was interviewed extensively, but no concrete evidence was found linking him to the crime, leading investigators to believe that some of his testimony may be augmented to skirt responsibility. What I think happened is that Lloyd Sr. and Jr. were both part of this. I think it's very possible that Lloyd Sr. might have been Tape Recorder Man, if Tape Recorder Man was even a real thing, because we never found him. And that Lloyd, who was young, unwell, easily manipulated, his dad was abusive and literally killed his mom in a drunk driving accident. He'd been in and out of foster care and then was living with his father when he was kicked out of the system.
Yeah.
Even if Tape Recorder Man is a totally third-party random coincidence who is an innocent weirdo who didn't do anything, and it was Lloyd who abducted the girls, which I think it was, brings them back to his dad's house, does God knows what, Lloyd's dad discovers what he's done, and is like, holy shit, you've kidnapped and harmed these little girls in my fucking house. We got to get rid of the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
He and the uncle, or maybe even not the uncle, who knows, but that he helps his son get rid of all of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
He flies under the radar. He gets, convicted of another crime. He's in jail, and the dad dies, and all the details essentially die with him. That's what I think happened. It just seems like the best fit.
Maybe the dad, who is Tape Recorder Man, was there to abduct some little girls, or at least creep around and do some recon.
Yep. They could have been in on it together.
Like, who's to say that the dad wasn't a child predator himself?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that a lot of this shit is generational.
Yep.
And then they together took them back or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where we will never know for sure exactly what happened to these poor kids.
That's so sad.
And it's devastating for the parents and the family and their surviving loved ones to learn those details.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine it's equally as devastating to live your whole life without the closure of knowing what happened to your babies. Like, I can't even... I couldn't picture what's worse. Not knowing or knowing. It's all bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's all bad. Either way, these poor girls are dead and died in a violent and horrific way.
Mm-hmm. Scared
and alone. It's just like...
They had each other.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean...
Let's just leave it at that.
Just leave it at that. It's just like so fucking devastating. And this case absolutely destroyed this community. Like, this was such, like I said, an idyllic suburban DC area town.
If a 10 and a 12-year-old feel safe and everyone feels safe to let them walk
a mile
to the mall or whatever.
Half mile, yeah. Like, it was that kind of community. People knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
People kept an eye on each other. There were plenty of eyewitnesses who were mutual friends of these kids and their brothers who had seen them there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, half the fucking... The East Coast was all over this case trying to help find these girls, and none of it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, none of it worked, I think, because the police were way too quick to dismiss Lloyd Welch. Like, look, if some weirdo is coming in and lying about details to a case he's claiming he's not even connected to at all, but he was at the mall, and you already had the composite sketch from Danette.
Yeah.
Like, why were we not looking at this fucking guy when he was 18, 19, and waiting for him to come forward when he's 60? Like, I'm so pissed about that. Not that even it could have maybe saved those girls, because they may very well have already been gone by the time he came in. But, like, he could have just gone in to give testimony just to see what the police knew, just to see, am I in the clear?
Yeah.
And then essentially made a buffoon of himself and put himself in the clear because they just dismissed him like that. Like, you asshole, just don't fucking come back here. And then they didn't look at him again.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he gave himself over and they didn't see it.
He was in the police house.
That makes me fucking see red. That shit pisses me off. So I don't know. I'm so sad for this family. It's so devastating. I don't fucking know what else to say. I got nothing else to say. I hope those girls didn't suffer very
much.
I really hope so too. That shit keeps me up at night. I can't think about it.
Well, good. We got a lot of dead little girls in this episode.
Oh my God.
Thanks to us.
Good job, us. I know we always like to blame the fan pickers, but this one was entirely on us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Really sorry. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, everybody take your meds.
Thanks.
Drink some water.
Go outside.
Go outside. Touch grass. Touch grass today. The weather's nice in the Midwest today. Finally.
Call someone you love.
Yep. Yep.
All
Call your
right.
sister.
Yes.
Tell her you love her.
Oh, God. Now I have to call my sister.
I know. I got to do that too. All right. We love you all.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Crime. Our cover art is by Danielle Sylvan. Music by Phil Young and Corey Wendell. Editing by Jonathan Camp. Our production manager is Andrea Gardner. For photos and sources, check out our blog at wineandcrimepodcast.com. You can follow us on all the socials at Wine and Crime Pod. If you have questions, answers, or recommendations to share, email us at wineandcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It is the best way to spread the word. If you'd like to show your support and get access to all sorts of wine-fueled bonus content, visit our Patreon page. Cheers!